Hello. So today I'm going to show you how you can make your very own Montessori checkerboard. And there are lots of different ways it can happen. We're not going to worry too hard about exactly how it comes out or exactly what it's made from. We can be pretty flexible about that. But I'll just start by showing you one that I already made. I did happen to have an enormous pad of paper. So not everybody's going to have that. So I will not show you this way of doing it, but the basic concept remains the same. Ours is not going to turn out exactly as big as the ones at school. It's only going to be 7 squares across and 4 squares up. And I think the one at school, it goes higher and it might even go farther. So, but this is all really that we need for now. This way you'll be able to do checkerboard work from home. And another thing that you're gonna make after you make the checkerboard is your own bead bars. And that's just colored dots on paper that you're then gonna just cut out. So I'll show you that afterwards. And then the numbers. Pardon me while I get the numbers. So the numbers are just pieces of paper that are cut into squares with numbers written on them. A lot of them with just regular white background. Oops. And some of them are going to have the gray background, and I'll show you how to do that. Because the gray ones are going to go on this side, remember? And the white ones go along the bottom. Right? So at school, the side numbers that are gray tell you how many to get, and the white numbers along the bottom tell you which bead bar to get. So way down here at the corner, you're gonna get 2 3 bars and put them there in this example. All right, but before we worry about even doing any checkerboard, we have to make one. Okay, so when I talked about being flexible, I really meant it. So whatever you can come up with, a piece of cardboard is awesome, or a baking pan, or the top of like a really big Tupperware, Rubbermaid container, maybe the kind that scoots under the bed to store things. Anything that's stiff and big enough, because this is going to be back behind we're going to put paper on top of this and then color the squares. If you don't have anything that's big and stiff, that's fine. You can just make it out of paper. It'll just be a little more delicate. If you're lucky enough to have a huge pad of paper, that's great. If you're really lucky, you might have a huge pad of paper that's already got squares on it. Does that show up? I'm not sure. Okay, so if you have something like this, you're all set, because you can just use the squares already. I decided not to make it like that because I don't know that anybody's going to have that. That would be cheating. Okay, so I am just going to start with a piece of cardboard. The size, I'm going to show you, at minimum should be 49 centimeters this way by 28 centimeters that way, or in inches, 21 centimeters this way by 12, sorry, did I say centimeters? 21 inches this way by 12 inches, that's 1 foot, or a ruler this way. If you have enough cardboard, go ahead and add 5 centimeters on this dimension and on that dimension. Or if you're doing inches, 2 inches this way and 2 inches that way. Because then you have more room for putting the numbers on the side and the numbers around the bottom. But you don't actually need that, because you can just put the numbers outside of your checkerboard, straight onto your rug or your floor. So this one that I'm gonna make in front of you guys is actually the very smallest that we have, because I really didn't have much plain cardboard. In fact, it has holes in it. So that's fine. It will work just fine. So these are some numbers to keep in mind. You might need a little bit of help from parents getting that started, and I can email that out to the class. Okay, so let's get started. We have things that we need are cardboard, just plain old copy paper. I have a measuring tape. You can use a ruler. I don't happen to have a ruler. Scissors, tape, pencil. You can also use glue. The problem with glue is that it'll come out a little bumpier, perhaps, and we want to try to keep it as flat as possible. And then also I made a little square, exactly the size of the squares on the checkerboard. And it's 7 centimeters by 7 centimeters. The other way you can do it is, what did I figure out? 3 inches by 3 inches. It would be a little bit bigger that way if you're doing inches. All right. So I'm just gonna start taping down our paper. Actually, you know what? I'll go this way. Let's do this. There we go. And it does not have to be pretty, and it does not have to be perfect. And as you will see, the coloring can be done in many different ways. And it also does not have to be perfect, but where the colors go and which color they are is important. So I'll show you that. All right, so I'm gonna do the edges so they stay put while we work on them. But if you don't have tape, you can glue. And if you have no cardboard, but you have a slightly thicker, stronger paper, then that's a good idea. All right, we're just gonna get this to stay put while we're working on it. Not perfect, that's really okay. All right. Now there's a couple different ways of getting the squares on. It would be more exact to measure out 7 centimeters, 7 and 7 and 7 and 7 and 7 all the way along this way, and then the same that way, and then draw those lines. And that's what I did for the one I already made. But it's actually a whole lot easier just to make yourself a square that is 7 centimeters by 7 centimeters, or if you're doing inches, 3 by 3. So the more important place is bottom right. So this is where we need to be more careful, and the least important part is top left. This is actually not going to wind up being used. We'll do it anyway, but it is not gonna be able to be used just by the way that the checkerboard works. So here we're going to be really careful and put it absolutely smack into the corner. and trace along the sides. Boom. Then move it over and do the next one. This is so much faster than what I did before with all the measuring and making it perfect. And it came out very pretty, but we do not need pretty, so that's fine. We just need it to function. And like I said, this is going to be, what I'm making now is sort of the bare minimum. What I already made was the fancy version, which is great. If you can make that too. Why am I black? Hang on. There I am. Am I still recording? I'm not sure. Okay. Yes, okay. All right, so we're just gonna keep on going with this. It should wind up being 7 across and 4 up. And I'm gonna get it a little imperfect here. As long as we can get them reasonably well lined up, it's gonna work just fine. Okay. Sorry you have to wait through this, but I don't know how to edit videos yet. So you have to wait through this. All right. So I tell you what, I'm gonna cheat and hurry this up a little bit by doing this. And this is how I did the other one. It's perfectly okay to do this as well. One long line, and then I can just continue those lines that I already made. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but there we are. Okay, so we got our 7 by 4 of squares. Now comes the coloring. You can use a lot of different things for coloring. I happen to have markers and pencils, colored pencils. But if you have crayon, if you have, even paint would work, except if the paper's not thick enough, it could, when it dries, it could make the paper wiggly, and that wouldn't be as flat, and we want to try to keep it flat. So the most important thing is to get the correct color in the correct place. So let's look at the one I already made. The most used part of the checkerboard is the lower right area. So be more careful with these areas. You have to start with green at the lower right corner. And then moving left, we go blue, red, green, blue, red. And we're going to end with green because we have a 7th one. Then going up, we have this same pattern, but everything got shifted over one. So it starts at blue and then goes to red, green, blue, red, green, blue. Next one up, same pattern as here, but shifted over one, starting with red. Then red, green, blue, red, green, blue, ending with red, and top is just like the bottom, starting with green. Green, blue, red, green, blue, red, green. This square will actually never be used, but that's okay. So So start at the very corner, the lowest right corner, and what I did was I outlined it first, and I didn't have the patience to color it in with a marker, so I just outlined it with a marker and then I colored it with a pencil, but you can color it any way you want. And take your time. When it stops being fun, take a break and then do it later. Because this is going to be a big project and you can take it in parts. So, after green, blue. Really important. We're going from right to left. We're starting at the lower right hand corner and then we're heading left. And it's better to just get it outlined and then worry about coloring it in afterwards. Oh look, it doesn't want to color on top of the tape. Okay. That's going to be tricky. Okay, I have washable markers and I'm noticing it doesn't enjoy going on the tape. It's resisting going on the tape. So now we'll have to make a note of that. Okay, and after the blue comes the red. And if you don't have the exact shade of blue, you know, it doesn't matter. It can be a lighter blue, it can be a darker blue, it can be a lighter green, it can be a darker green. If you really don't have any red at all, you can do pink, I guess. We would like it to be more or less these sorts of shades, but whatever you've got kicking around the house, hopefully you have something similar to these. So that's the beginning of our pattern, and instead of coloring it all in front of you, I'm just gonna pretend I did the whole thing, but it will come out looking like this pattern when you're done. And like I said, it doesn't have to be gorgeous, it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up. One thing that is important is that the colors that are the same do match in a diagonal. So these two blues, you can see very clearly how they can go diagonally together, all the reds, all the greens, the next blues, the next reds, etc. That part is important, but it would work fine being a little bit less perfect looking. The last thing to do on the board is to write the numerals. Underneath the far right low corner, you want to write the number 1. This is for units, the numbers 1 through 9. Then the next one over under the blue, that's going to be the number 10, and that's for tens, obviously, 10 through 90. The next one over should write 100, and I'm using Sharpie. You can just use a Sharpie or a black pen or just a pen. Next comes 1000. There's a 1 and a comma and 3 zeros for the units of the thousands family. Then comes 10,000, the tens of the thousands family. So you write 10, 1 0, then the comma, then 3 zeros, and that adds up to 4 zeros. Then comes the 100,000, the hundreds of the thousands family. 1 0 0 and the comma, and then 3 zeros, and that adds up to 5 zeros. And then comes the 1 million, and that's going to be the units of the millions family. Let me get closer. It's a 1 and then a comma, 3 zeros, and then a comma, and then 3 zeros. Okay, so that's the bottom. Along the sides, you do something very similar, but we only have 4 of them. Along the sides, lower right-hand corner, you're going to write 1. Then the blue up above, you're going to write 10. Then the red up above, you're going to write 100. And then the green above that, 1,000. 1, comma, 3 zeros. Okay. And this one has the room below and on the side to put your numbers. But like I said, if you don't have, computer, sorry. If you don't have room for that, that's fine. You can just lay down like your smaller one and just put the numbers right off the edge on the floor or table. So for this one, since I don't have that extra room because I had such a small piece of cardboard, I would just write the numbers right on the bottom of each square. So after I've colored this green on top in Sharpie, I'm just going to write the number 1 right on top at the bottom of it, right on top of the color. Let me do a minute. And then the 10 on the blue one, and then the 100 on the red one. So, and then I would do another green, that would be the 1,000, a blue 10,000, a red 100,000, and finally the green 1,000,000. So it can be right on the square if you don't have extra room underneath. The same with going up the side. You can just put the number on the square. This would be a 1 here. That would be a 10. This one would be a 100. And this would be a 1,000. Am I showing it? No, I am not. So that works too. You can make it this way as well. So once you have your board colored in and with the numbers on it, you'll need to make the numbers that go that are used when you get a math problem. So all I did was I took a piece of paper and I cut it into strips, and I just kind of estimated strips. I don't actually know how big that is. Let's see. Maybe 1.5 inches wide or something. It doesn't really matter. And then once you've cut enough strips, you pile them up and turn it sideways and cut them into squares. And again, does not have to be perfect. And cut a whole bunch because, and one piece of paper can make a whole lot of squares. Here's a whole lot of squares. So then you're going to want to write on the squares the numbers 1 through 9 over and over again. And let me get my examples. Most of them, let's see, you should have maybe 6 of every number with just a plain white background, like that. But then you want to have maybe 3 of every number with a gray background. And I'll show you how I did that. And those are the ones that go up the side. So for those, you just take a number that you made, here's the 7, and you take a pencil and you just go really lightly across it, all the way across. And if try not to make it so that you can't read the number. If you do, sorry, this is tricky to do one-handed. If you do cover up the number too much, go ahead and go over it harder if like with Sharpie or something. So now I have a gray 7. Compare it to the 8. All right, so we have a gray 7 and a white 8. I'm not sure that's showing up, but we're doing the best we can. All right. So then you have your checkerboard that you made. And then you have, and you know, maybe it'll look more like this one. That's fine. And then you have your numbers, a whole bunch of white numbers and a bunch of gray numbers. Then the last thing you need is your bead bars. And we're making them out of paper, of course. So here's how I made bead bars. I took a pad of paper, it doesn't matter, a piece of paper. If you have thicker paper, that would really be good because these are going to be handled a lot. Or if you can glue a piece of paper onto something thick, like the back part of a pad of paper would be awesome. Just to give it a little more strength, because these are going to be handled, but they can easily be replaced. And again, the colors are going to be important. So the way that the colors work with the bead bars in Montessori is that the 1 is always red, the 2 is always green, 3 is pink, 4 is yellow, 5 is light blue, 6 is purple, 7 is white. So I used a black ballpoint pen and just made empty circles. 8 is brown and 9 is dark blue. And this one piece of paper makes 10 of every bead bar. And we only need to go up to 9. Okay, something happened to my video. Hello, video. Hello. Come on, video. Oh, buddy.